In this video, I'm going to talk about YAML. What is YAML? YAML is basically a data serialization language. It's a data interchange language. It is mainly used for transporting data, or the data can be used for a configuration purpose as well. It is kind of similar to the JSON and XML format which we all are used in the development world. Now, YAML is basically human readable. So it is much human readable than the JSON or the XML file. Now, when JSON and XML was introduced, it was this gold standard whereby people used to refer to those file and that people were able to decipher the information out of the configuration or the data file. Now, this file can be opened in any text editor. YAML is computationally very powerful. It is mainly used for configuration files. Now, I've seen people using YAML mainly for the deployment pipelines, for whether it can be an Ansible or it is for GitHub workflow actions, or it can be an Azure DevOps pipeline as well. YAML basically focuses on the key value pair. It mainly relies on spacing and indentation. So every space, every indentation, new line, white space, non-white space has some purpose or meaning in YAML. YAML is a superset of JSON. It is kind of an, I'd say, an alternative to JSON or XML, and it is widely gaining more popularity compared to JSON file. Now, YAML supports different scalar types. It supports maps, it supports lists, and the extension of the YAML file is .yaml or YML. Now, there are various YAML tool available in the market. I have listed few of them. I don't promote this tool. However, these tool will help you to validate the content of the YAML file, check whether the YAML syntax is correct or not. It will allow you to convert an XML file to YAML file, or YAML file to XML file, or XML file to JSON, and then JSON file to XML. You can even compare both YAML files. So there are various utilities available within the market. Now, what are the different YAML data types? So some of them are like strings. Now, string in YAML is just a piece of text. So as you see over here in the screen, name colon John. Now this space, name colon, after that there is a space that holds a meaning in YAML. String can be represented just without a quote, or you can use a double quote, or you can use a single quote. Then there are integers, floating point, boolean, multi-line strings, lists, dictionary or object, complex types, and you can even comment in YAML. Now, as I mentioned to you, string has no quotes, single quotes or double quotes. Boolean can have hold true, false, yes, no, on, off value, and comments are represented using a hash symbol. Now, YAML usage, where YAML is used. Uh, I've seen YAML usages in Ansible, Docker, Visual Studio Code, when you build a Power Platform pipelines, and off late I've seen like Power Apps file is also composed of a YAML component that will allow you to change the Power
First,
Apps
let's go
file
into
and
the
then redeploy
YAML
the file
checker. Now,
back
this is
into the
one of the
system.
tool YAML checker,
So I'm
which
going to
will allow you to
demonstrate that
write
in basically a YAML file.
a while.
Why
So
I'm
let's
choosing
jump
this
into the
tool is
demo.
because just to check while building those YAML file, that whether the syntax is correct or not. So take for example, like say if I'm building a YAML file, it always starts with triple slash. That indicate that this is like one kind of a documentation. So triple dash is like it's a start of that YAML file. Now you can have multiple documents within a YAML file. Now, just to start with, I'll start with say country, and I'll say USA. Now, this is a valid YAML. So as you see over here, it indicates that's a valid YAML file. Now, if I remove the space, if you see here, it still says it's a valid YAML file, but it is not what you think. Like it will not interpret country as one of the key and then US as one of the values. So if you see the syntax from here, if you put a space, then it indicates that there is an object called as country or a key called as a country, and then USA is the value. Now, let me add another country. So if I put country colon, and then I put a double quotes, and I put say France in double quotes, then this is a valid YAML file. Then I'll put country colon in single quotes, say Australia. Even this is a valid YAML file. Now, let me put say currency, and let me put in single quotes say dollar. Now, if I just put currency country over here, I can still, it is still valid. But it is always advisable you put an underscore or just separate it out so that it is much more readable, because the whole purpose of YAML is readability. Now let's pick up some other variables. Say if I put a year, and I can put say 2024. So this is a numeric value. Then I can put the pi value. Sorry, so that's 3.14. So that's a floating point value. Then the other thing which I can do is valid as a boolean value. So I'll put true. So that's a boolean value. Now if I put this true, say is empty. If I put this true in double quotes, then this becomes a string. So this true is different than the is valid true. So is valid true is basically boolean, and is empty is basically string. Now let's say if I again put is valid and I put the value as false, then it is not a valid YAML file. Although this from a syntax perspective it looks correct, but then if you see this is valid is repeated, so you cannot repeat the key in a YAML file. So okay, I'll just make that change. Now true false, you can also represent something as yes or no. So I can put either yes or I'll put it as no, or I can put that as on or off. So even that's a boolean value. Now, as I mentioned to you that a any JSON file is a valid YAML file. So if I put some JSON value, say I'll just put say JSON colon, and maybe I'll just put some value, say name colon Girish, and country colon Australia. Now this is valid. You can have a complex JSON file embedded within a YAML file, and it will be still marked as valid. Now, if you see over here from a syntax perspective, it is showing as duplicated mapping key. Now, why this was an error over here? Because we have repeated this key value. Now, if you want to get this error out, then what you can do, just say country 1, country 2, and then your YAML file would be a valid YAML file. Now, as you see over here, I have embedded a JSON over here. Now, I can even embed an array. So if I want to embed an array of some numbers, I can do that. It's a valid YAML file. I'll say array of string. I can do that. And if I want to make an array of say mixed string and integer, let's see what happens. So if I have 3 comma 5 comma and then Tim, it's still valid. So you can even put that mixture of string and integer. Other thing, what we can do, you can even put a list. So if I put a YAML, and I'll say I'll put a new line, I'll just put a space. No, I'll not put a space, I'll just put a hyphen and then say yet and markup language, it's still valid. So that's basically a list. Okay, you can even have a say dictionary here, and here I can have something written as say maybe dollar. This is valid. So what this if you see line number 22 to 25, we have a dictionary, and the dictionary has another key value pair, and the key value pair contains the string value. Now this is different than this is the list. So YAML is like a key. Basically, it's a list, and then it has four components. Like you can have say fruits, and then you can say apple, banana, orange, mango. So like that, you can build up those list. Now, if you want to comment something, then you can put a comment. So you start with hash and then say this is comment. So that 21 number line will not be read. This is pure comment. Now, if you do not want to disturb the list item, and then you just want to put something around the comment, then you can start hash, and this is how you basically add those markup value. So like this, you can play around with the syntax. So this basically is used mainly used for configuration file. So if you are doing a deployment, then this will come handy. So I'll give you an example. So off late, uh, like if I'm in this Azure DevOps project, I'll just show you when you create a pipeline. So if you create your first pipeline, then there is an option to use a classic editor to create a pipeline without a YAML file. Or if you just say you already have a project, then you can start the pipeline. Okay, and then it will set up a YAML file, and then this is how the YAML file looks like. Now we have seen hash starts with a comment, and then there is a list item over here. Then this is again a dictionary, and then you can have a combination of the list and the dictionary items. Also from a YAML perspective, which I haven't showed you, so let me show you. Let me remove all these things from here, and let me put some say variable over here, and this is some text. Okay, and if I put another variable which has a long text, so this is a long text, so let me copy this. Now we can even represent like this is a long text. But what if you want to make it more readable? Now this is spanning across multiple scrolls. So if you want to make it more readable, then what you do is you put a say angle bracket and just put one space, and this becomes a valid YAML. Now, but how it is readable? Like if I just put a break line over here, as you see, now this is a perfect YAML file. Now let's do again the same thing. So let's say there is another. So you just remove the indentation, and then you just say this is test number 3, and then you again copy the same thing. Now, there is another way through which you can specify that's a new line. So you put a pipe character and then put just one space. And this is a perfectly sound YAML file. So new line characters are like represented in this fashion so that this file becomes much more readable. But remember, this space is very important in YAML. Now, in Power Apps, I have a Power App over here. So in Power Apps, I can download a copy of that file, and that file has if you download that copy, so let me download that copy. I think I have already downloaded the copy. So that file name is .msapp. Okay, so you copy the path of the msapp, and then you go into the PowerShell, and then this is like a CLI interface for pack, where you can run all the pack commands. So let's say if you have pack canvas, unpack, and I'll just see the help file. Oh, sorry, I just misspelled it. So it's unpack. And then from here, I can see that there are various sources which I need to give. So first, I want to give the part of the MSApp file, which I'm going to provide, and where you want to paste the output. So I'll just say SQL and query 102. That's one of the folder. So what it does, it basically unpack the file. Now there is some error over here. Yep. So we haven't provided the syntax correctly. So we just need to specify it correctly. So canvas dash dash sources. So once you do that, in this folder, the MSApp file will get extracted, and we will just inspect what's there in that file. So if I go to see Giri 102, now here, let me open this in. So if I can open this in VS Code, so show more option, or maybe I'll just copy this path. And if I go to VS Code, file, open folder, yeah. So if you see, this is a Power Apps file. Now it has a lot of JSON, it has a folder, but if you closely watch this src over here, it has this app.fx.yml. So YAML is used as a app fx Power FX configuration value. It hosts that value. Then all the screen are represented using a YAML file. So if you want to make an edit over here, again, you should know YAML, and that's the whole purpose of learning YAML. If you want to update the Canvas app day in, day out. Now, there are a lot of things which you can learn from here. Also, if you see the documentation, now it says Power FX YAML formula grammar. Now, in this, what Microsoft is suggesting is a Microsoft Power FX is a new name for formula language for Canvas app. These articles are work in progress as we extract the language from Canvas app, integrate with Power Platform product. Now, if you read this documentation, they say that we have selected the industry standard YAML as a language for binding. There are already a large number of editors, tools, and library for working with YAML. So that means if you are working with Power FX, Power Apps, Power Platform, then by default you will get hold of YAML. So it's very important that you understand the concept of YAML, and then once you understand the concept or syntax of YAML, then you can play around in building the application. And there are some other YAML file which you can see in the GitHub repository, which has its own representation. So this is like one of the repository from GitHub, and then you can see how the YAML is structured. So it is all based on indentation, it is all based on spaces, and you can see various formats. You can explore all this and get hold of the syntax, and then you can start building your own application. So YAML has its own org specification. So if you navigate to this URL yaml.org, then you will find the latest specification. You can navigate to this website, and then you can view all the various syntaxes of YAML. YAML is used in different programming languages as well as a supporting mechanism for either data interpretation or data configuration. So please play around with it. Yeah. So that's it, folks. This is all about YAML as a not a markup language, but a language for data interchange. Thanks for watching.